I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with the cattle market summary for the week ending September the 6th, and I'm running out of superlatives to talk about how bad this market is and how fast it's gone down and how vulnerable we were and how much we've been taken advantage of by your big packers. The way that things have gone down after that fire about a month ago there in Holcomb, Kansas at the Finney County Tyson Fresh Meats, and then at the same time we're getting mounting pressure just from numbers starting to show up, more calves becoming your feeder cattle receipts. A larger percentage of them are becoming calves all the time as we start getting closer to the fall. Everybody's kind of tired of the heat, and there's really just not anything good to talk about. We've got this investigation that's before us. We don't really know what's going on there. We haven't heard anything out of it. We don't know if we're getting anywhere or if we're going to learn anything. We hope something happens there. We don't have a whole lot of faith in the P&S to get anything done there, but at least they're trying to do something. We're kind of encouraged by the lawsuit that R-CALF has against the Big Four packers. We feel like all of this is coming at a time where maybe enough things will come together that we may get something to happen. A lot of people are talking. A lot of people are stirred up. You see a lot of it on social media. People are getting really desperate and starting to talk about what they'd like to get done as far as changing things. What it's going to take to make it happen, I don't know. I'm one of the talking heads. You know, I'm here every day, blurting out how disgusted I am with the way things are going right now. But the heck of it is, you got to keep going. But let's talk about some markets, and I want to give you guys some comparisons here to kind of tell you how ridiculous things are. You look at what your fat cattle market was. We thought that $1 a pound might be a barrier or a threshold that would be hard to get across. It didn't even phase it. It just kept dropping lower and lower and lower. And by the end of the week, we got to where $1 bid, maybe in the northern plains on some really good cattle, but in the southern plains, $1 was no longer achievable. And your bids were mostly $98. So we've dropped below $1. Well, let's look at some prices on some other classes. A high dressing cow, good boning cow or breaker cow in your auction sales will bring $70 at tops, maybe a few dollars more than that on a really empty high dressing cow. A good heavy muscle bull without too much fat on him will bring $1. So you've got a 8, 10, 12-year-old bull there. He brings $1. Every single bit of him is going to be ground up into hamburger and mixed in with that the fatter ground beef that you get out of the cows to come up with that low percentage lean ground beef there. But it's hard to believe that a big old rough hard tough bull brings the same price per pound on the hoof as a fat steer heifer that's young and has sweet meat and been fed ration and handled right and everything. It's unbelievable. You look at your cutter cow cutout, which is for ground beef product. It's sitting at $176.44, and like I said, you've got $70 cows and $100 bulls. Your choice boxes, choice box beef cutouts, $227.31, and then you've got fat cattle bringing under $1 now. Your carcass price equivalent, bringing back what your meat is bringing, which gives you comes around the backside of what cattle should be bringing. Your carcass price equivalent index is sitting at 187.50, and your dressed fat cattle market is down to 160 now, if you could get that. Not sure whether you could or not. We've got these presidential candidates that are running for the Democratic primary. They've basically declared war on red meat, particularly beef. Not that any of them have a clue about any of it, but in that Green New Deal by that PhD scientist from New York there that put out that Green New Deal, it said in there that the cow farts were really tearing things up. We see now some new reports come out where NASA information proved that none of that has anything to do with our global warming. It has a whole lot more to do with the Earth's orbit around the sun. So the closer we get to the sun, the hotter we get. Who would have thought that? That's a novel idea. But it's unbelievable that they have really declared war on that. They're basically writing off any cattle producers. Of course, that'd be easy to do, less than 1% of the population. So, and we don't tend to march and stand around holding flags and cardboard posters and things like that. So I guess they can afford to throw us away, which is absolutely what they've done. But, you know, how and when did they decide that they want to declare war on beef? And they think that's a popular idea because they're watching the same TV shows we are and seeing the Impossible Burger ads from Burger King every other commercial. So they think that that's a popular thing to get on and to really push, and that everybody's going to fall in behind it. Kamala Harris, one of your top runners there on the Democratic side, has even said that if she gets in, she believes that the government should regulate how much red meat you're allowed to eat. Isn't that something? It'd be a little hard to do for some of us that have a freezer full of it, you know, sitting out in the garage, and I'm not sure how she would get that pinned down, but it's unbelievable the way we've gone in this country. It's unbelievable how this industry has been taken advantage of by your big corporate packers. And I tell you what, it's so disheartening. I was giving a talk at Boehringer Ingelheim sponsored producers meeting on Friday in Sedalia, Missouri. I had a great time there talking with, had about 200 people there, and they were very attentive and very engaging, and had a lot of good conversations with many of them there. Appreciate all of them for coming out. And they were thinking the same thing. And it's disturbing to me how many people have told me that they don't think they're going to be able to survive this wreck. They're gonna go bankrupt. They're gonna go out of business. They're quitting. There were several older gentlemen, farmers, ranchers there at Sedalia, and they were saying they were going to quit. I talked to yet another guy that told me that he had told his kids that he was not going to allow them to get into the cattle business because he didn't want them going through what he's had to go through. And that hurts you. I tell you what, that is nothing any more sad than something like that. And I know a lot of you people out there are feeling the same thing. You're just tired of beating your head against the wall. Wouldn't it be nice just to go to a regular job, only have to work 8 hours a day and get a check guaranteed, you know, every week or 2 weeks, you know? And a lot more people are thinking that that'd be the thing to do. That's exactly what your corporate packing industry wants you to do. They're gonna set it up just like the hogs. They're either gonna contract these calves right at weaning. They're gonna pay somebody to grow them. They're gonna handle the feeding themselves, and they'll have 100% control of their captive supplies. This whole deal is falling right into their hands. But talking about how cheap things are getting around, I talked to my friend Ellison Carter. He's one of the biggest order buyers in the state of Texas, and got a big shipping point right there west of Fort Worth. And I was talking to him about, you know, how cheap are some of these cattle getting, you know, bought on order, you know, shipped out. It's getting about time to start ordering some calves for wheat, even though not enough moisture in the southern plains to scratch it in right now. They got to get a rain before they can even think about planting this wheat. You know, may have to dust it in, but they won't get that desperate to give up on that for another few weeks. But I asked Ellison, what can you get some wheaty cattle for to get some lightweights in there with a lot of options that you can take on? And he sent me some quotes of some cattle that he shipped out this week. He said he had some nice, light, 385 pounders. There's lots of options there, guys. You can keep them, you can grow them, you can sell them. The lighter you get, the more options you got, all the way till you take them in and put them in the feedlot and latch the gate, and then your options are over. But a 385 pound steers and heifers, he says you'd like them. They're good kind. Delivered to wheat country for $147.50. Now, if those things don't work, all of us are in trouble. I tell you what, it's a major wreck if those cattle don't work. That's not very many dollars, guys. and the heifers are so much cheaper yet. Said shipped out some nice 345-pound heifers, same deal there, delivered for $127.85. You guys can get some of those cattle if you want to. I know we've had a wreck and things are terrible but if you got a banker that'll stick with you, or if you've got some money, it's time to start taking advantage of the market. I mean, you got to get in, buy low and sell high. But I think there's a lot to look forward to right after the first of the year. I think this market's going to start recovering then. I think it's going to become even more evident that we've got lower numbers around. They're going to be selling off a lot of big cow dispersals, and most of those, or I say most, a lot of them won't make it back out to production. So things will be coming around. Might be time to get in on some of these lightweight cattle to background, turn out on wheat if you got some other fall grazing, things like that. But if you're not very picky, and I never was very picky when buying cattle or handling cattle, I'd rather have something that might make some money rather than something that your neighbors will really get excited when they drive by your place and look at the front pasture. I'd rather have something that might make $1. But if you're willing to take on some plain cattle, everything's got a value. Some plain cattle. Ellison told me if you take some plain cattle, he can send you some plain, bigger 6-weight cutting bull type cattle there in the 6 weights, or some plain 5-weight heifers for under $1.10 delivered to your place. Now, if you can get excited about something like that, I think you could too. But get a hold of your shipper. If you don't know anybody, call EC, EllisonCarterCattle.com. You can get a hold of them there. It's got contact information. He's got buyers in all those little mom and pop sales all over North Texas, Central Texas, going over into Louisiana, probably tickling into Oklahoma a little bit there. But call Ellison, he'll hook you up, or you guys have other shippers, call them. Let's talk about the market a little bit. Your board for last week on live cattle, October. Of course, Monday was a holiday. Tuesday was up 35 cents. Wednesday down 1/4. Thursday down $1.15, and Friday down $3 after we saw that fat market continue to tumble lower. With our spot October live cattle contract, this is the closest we got at 94.87 at the end of the week. That was down $4 and a nickel compared to the end of the previous week. I tell you, just completely falling out, and like I said, a big flush. December, you look out to the next traded month there, ended at 99.75. It was down $3.92. But like I said, whenever you start looking down the road a little bit, your April's always the highest, and it's still trading near 111, and it's been trading around there for the last few weeks there. So there's going to be some things happen between now and then. Your feeder cattle for September, Monday, Labor Day, Tuesday was up $1.75, Wednesday up $1.40, as everybody thought maybe we overdid things the previous week, tanking everything like they did. But then whenever the fats didn't even skip a beat, falling below $1, and we got into Thursday, your board was down $1.15, and then Friday down another $1.05, ending the week at 133.35, which was actually up 95 cents because of those early week gains. October feeders up 10 cents at 130.90. Your fat cattle trade, heavier volume than what we thought. Everybody thought, oh, they're going to get down there and start bidding around $1, and heaven forbid under $1. Nobody's going to sell them. People just started getting more desperate. As your packers became more cocky and more confident, even though they're under investigation, even though they've had this blatant price gouging and everything, they're just getting more cocky as they put out bids, and basically they know what are you going to do with them, and your cattle people will not, cannot, and do not get together and try to get leverage on these guys and force them to come in there and bid on these cattle, so they just keep dropping the market. But so your prices, this is through Thursday, which is all the information we have that's confirmed. 61,000 head through Thursday, and that's about as big as we've had for the whole week for the last several weeks. But then we had more trade on Friday, so we're going to get up there into the 80,000 range in the 5-area feeding region. Movement there closer to 1,000 or 100,000. But your prices through Thursday were mostly a dollar to $1.07. At $1.07 I'd seen early in the week was on some stick out deals up there in Iowa on some really nice cattle. But through Thursday on mandatory price reporting, which is all the information they get from the packers, there had yet to be anything under a dollar a pound. And so we saw that. It was mostly a dollar to $1.03. Even on your really good cattle in Northern Plains, $1.03 knocked most of them in the head. And your weighted average on live steers, 102.31 through Thursday, mind you. But heifers was only $100.95. Your dress market through Thursday was 160 to 169. We had some 167 earlier in the week, and then it just kept drawing back. A lot of 163 later in the week, and 160 was your prominent bid at the end of the week, with some packers coming in and saying they might give 161 for some cattle to deliver at the end of September. So it's not looking too awful good. Now, everything I've told you about the fat cattle market was through Thursday. Friday, with a combination of weakness on the board and everybody just getting so desperate, it just kept getting worse. So then Friday we come out with $99 bids, and people started taking them. There was some dollar trade still being reported, but then later bids were only 98. And then we saw dress bids back up, like I said, from 160, mostly with some trade earlier in the morning on Friday at 163. But basically, at the end of Friday, your market was 98 live or 160 dressed. And that's pretty disappointing. But box beef cutout values fell as they're starting to get more back in line, and poor old packers, you know, they may break off of that some of the big profits they've been making, but the heck of it is they're backing the cattle market up faster than your beef purchasers can back up your box beef cutouts. But choice cuts, your average trade for last week, $229.51. $4.84 lower than the previous week's weighted average. Selects at $206.75, which was $5.11 lower than the previous week's weighted average, with a choice select spread of $22.76 and just under 500 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, which is just kind of a moderate movement there. But you talk about your feeder cattle, and they're tough too, and nobody can get excited. We're still not seeing good runs in a lot of your sales, which is making me even more nervous, because if we have these late summer transition into early fall sales and we haven't been seeing any big receipts, then they're going to have to come sometime. Then they're going to get loaded up on these early fall runs, and it's going to be too much for people to choke. And most of the time, your feeder cattle buyers will continue to buy cattle that they won't hold you up at gunpoint like these packers will. They'll continue to come in and buy cattle. The guys that need to hedge the cattle, they'll buy them as long as they'll hedge. The other guys will buy them as long as they think the performance will bring them back into a chance to break even, or maybe even make $1. Who would have think that? But the thing that limits them is trucks and the ability to process the cattle. When those cattle hit the yards, they've all got to go through the chute, and it takes man hours and people to do all that. There's going to be pen space available because they're transitioning, they're ready for the big fall runs, but we get short of trucks and you can't get cattle out of those sale barns. That's the worst thing that can happen, if for them cattle to loiter around a sale barn for a long time and get stale. Then you're going to have a lot of health problems on them. But your feeder cattle, your cash feeders in the sale barns, pretty much $1 to $3 lower. It's starting to get worse than that on your late week sales. On some of your sales on Friday were a foot lower, and we're probably going to see your big high volume Monday sales come out sharply lower, I would guess, especially on calves, because buyers are already getting very particular as to calves on how long they've been weaned. You know, we used to say 30 days weaned. Don't even tell them they're weaned if you're only going to say 30 days. Then 45 days was good for a long time, 45. Now pretty much everybody wants them at least 60 days weaned. So you've got to do that, and when you do that and you're honest about it and you've weaned those cattle 60 days and you've given them some shots, you need to make sure that your marketing agent, your sale barn guy, whoever is helping you market those cattle knows exactly what you give them and exactly what day you wean them, because it makes a big difference to these guys that are buying them. But your cash feeders, like I said, $1 to $3 lower. Calves more sharply lower in some cases, but your real-time index on Cattle Market Central ended the week at 136.36, which was $2.14 lower than the end of the previous week. A couple of individual quotes that were awfully good. Guys still wanting to buy yearlings, and if they can find green grass yearlings, they really like it. Coming up here on Tuesday, you know, we've got a sale at Kingsville, Missouri. They've got a good run, about 3,000 head of yearlings, and a lot of them are going to be green. You're not going to find those much longer, guys. I'm going to be heading out to Ogallala, Nebraska, the Haythorn Ranch sale and Western Livestock Market. So get on that video at Western. They got a sale coming up on Tuesday also, and I'll be at that sale. I'm going to be meeting up on Monday night with a bunch of the reps and give a little talk there. But a couple of individual quotes that you might find interesting. Mankato, Kansas, Mankato Livestock Incorporated sold 62 head of 769-pound steers at $1.45. And Crawford Livestock Market, Crawford, Nebraska, 129 head of 875-pound steers still bring $1.36. That's a look at your week's markets on the road here in my old stomping grounds, Maysville, Missouri. That's the markets. We'll talk to you next week.